the Colorado Pro Days today, which is of interest to Patriots fans for a couple reasons. The most of which, the biggest, is Shedeur Sanders. It's not Travis Hunter. It's Shedeur Sanders because why? You want Shedeur Sanders to generate some interest. You want Cleveland or the Giants to be interested in him, or you want someone to trade up for the pick. But here we are. You have the intel. There was a lot of mock drafts with people that say they had talked in the league earlier about Shedeur Sanders was almost a sure thing to go to the Giants. Now that has turned on its head, and people are saying the Giants are not interested. They have Russell Wilson. They have Jameis Winston. What is going on in New York?
Well, I've sort of felt this way from the beginning on Shedeur. I think I said it last week to you guys, and I've said it the last couple of weeks that not everybody views him as a first-round pick, and I think there's a parallel there to Bo Nix last year where I think the great majority of the league did not think that Bo Nix was a first-round quarterback, but that didn't matter because there was one team that saw him as a fit. If he got by 12, if he had not been drafted by the Broncos, maybe the Saints take him. If the Saints don't take him, then I think he falls out of the first round completely. None of that matters because he went to the right team with the right coach. And he winds up being a Rookie of the Year candidate. I think it's the same thing with Shedeur.
Right.
So I think for Shedeur, he could go third overall. He could go 33rd overall.
What do you think? What are you hearing from the Giants, though? Like, what realistically?
I think the Giants have created a scenario where they don't need to take a quarterback. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they have done. There are a lot of jobs on the line there. They know, and I know a lot of people feel like looking at them like, well, you got to take a quarterback, and you're backed into that corner where you have to. Well, what's worse than not taking a quarterback is getting the wrong one there and passing on a generational talent.
And I've been saying that is that if I can go to ownership and I go look, we can't take Sanders at 3. Like, he's just not the kid. We brought in Russell Wilson. We'll improve the team. You'll see an improvement on the field. And then next year, the quarterback class is way better. Then we'll be in position to take our quarterback of the future. You can almost – the draft is so bad at quarterback this year, you can almost buy a year.
Here's the other thing. Like, if you're just talking about reading tea leaves, we can do this with both Cleveland and the Giants. We'll do it with the Giants first. If you're building a quarterback room for a rookie, is that how you do it?
Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson?
No.
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 I like Jameis Winston a lot.
But no.
I love Jameis.
He doesn't scream leader.
I love
And
Jameis.
Russell Wilson is universally
Jameis.
hated by his teammates, so yes.
But that's probably not the room that you're building.
Well, that's a great point that I haven't thought of, but certainly Russell Wilson, yes, that is not the room that you're
Right.
building.
So, like, I think if you're them and you're Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, you look at it and you say, we don't think there's a quarterback worth taking third overall that's going to be available to us. And there are 2 players in this draft who are head and shoulders above everybody else, and we're going to have a shot at one of the 2. Then I think it sort of becomes academic, doesn't it? And you just look, it's a little complicated for them if they take Carter because they've got so much invested in their edge players right now, but maybe that's just something you have to figure out. What you do about Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau with Abdul Carter coming in, if that's the case. I think Travis Hunter would be much cleaner for them. And then in Cleveland, so 8 days ago, Jimmy Haslam, J.W. Johnson, who's the son-in-law, who's executive vice president for them, and Andrew Berry, the general manager, were at Penn State and took Abdul Carter out to dinner. Kevin Stefanski was not there. Now, you'd think you'd want the head coach there.
Yeah.
I think Abdul Carter is the likely second overall pick. You'd want Stefanski to sit down and meet with them and be part of that. Well, Stefanski was actually in Oxford, Mississippi for Jackson Dart's pro day. They're not taking Jackson Dart second overall. So what does that signal?
Abdul Carter is
that signals, that you're taking Abdul Carter, and you want to get eyes on quarterbacks that might be available to you
round 2
with the 33rd overall pick.
Yeah,
right.
So there are all these sort of signals and tea leaves that would indicate that the Browns and the Giants are looking very hard at the idea of passing on quarterbacks. I think 99% of the hay's in the barn that Cam Ward's going to be a Titan. Now they're going to listen to offers. They're they're going to have a crew there. The Titans are going to have a big crew there today of assistant coaches, the head coach, the general manager, the president. They're going to go out next week to work out Sanders and Hunter. After that, they're going to reconvene and they're going to listen to trade offers, but I don't think anybody's going to be able to move them off their spot. So I think in all likelihood, really the draft's going to start at 4 with the Patriots, because I think you're going to have chalk at the first 3 picks. I think those 3 teams are probably going to stay where they are, and I think it's going to be Ward 1 and then Carter and Hunter in some order at 2 and 3.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but if you've kept track of the draft, the mock drafts and the way that they're going, which is again how I get all of my information. I love the draft, but no one wants me. I'll say it again. No one wants me analyzing these players. It's not up to me. I go by what the experts say. And the trend in the draft, mock drafts, is the tackle from Missouri is getting taken ahead. Is getting taken ahead of Will Campbell out of LSU. Mm-hmm. Will Campbell, it was penciled in by a lot of people for months and months and months as the first offensive tackle off the board.
Yep.
That is changing arm size, everything else. And the idea that if you take Membu out of Missouri, you have a right tackle, and he's your right tackle, and then there you go, and then that's that. What are you hearing involving that?
Well, I think it's so with Campbell. I think you just have to be comfortable with the idea that he could be a guard. With Membo, you have to be comfortable with the idea that he could be a right tackle. And it's hard for the Patriots because they just now Morgan Moses isn't going to be their right tackle for 10 years, but I think with those guys, it's like, are you comfortable with the idea that might not be your left tackle? I don't think they're in a position right now where this pick can be about 2025. They just don't have enough great players. That's what it is. And if you can get a great player, you're not in a position where you can pass on a great player for a very good player.
Right. So
that makes sense.
So obviously if offensive tackle is not as strength of the draft, or early in the draft.
Yeah.
Which it's not. They say there's depth.
I mean,
but you maybe. So who are you hearing? I love the running back out of Boise State. They're not taking him, but like
Ashton Genty,
yeah, they're not.
Although you can make the argument that isn't the worst idea for a young quarterback, because it helps you take pressure off your offensive line. It takes pressure off your young quarterback.
It's a very ballsy pick though for a bad team.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so but I would look at as someone who has to watch all the games. I'd love it if they take Genty. But okay, so who I know you, and now you are not alone. And to give you credit, you were a big proponent of this guy, Jalen Walker. Like, I
just think he's.
If you had the 4th pick in the draft and Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are gone, are you taking Jalen Walker?
I think so. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I just look at him as, if you want stylistically what Mike Vrabel wants, which is an athletic, attacking, aggressive, versatile kid. That's what he is. There's also that piece of it, which is, what are you paying? What are you drafting? And we've talked about this, right? Like, the locker room is going to pay attention to who you pay first. The locker room is going to pay attention to who you draft first. To Will Campbell's credit, I think he fits this to a T, right? Like, Will Campbell's a really good fit for Mike Vrabel. From everybody I've talked to, I actually got a chance to briefly meet Will Campbell and his parents at the combine. Like, I think, like, he seems like he'd be a very good fit for Vrabel. Jalen Walker would too. Like, Jalen Walker is seen character-wise as like, I mean, like, Georgia's had its issues, but he's one of these guys that Georgia really relied on to be like a leader of the room and all of that. So he's not like ideal size-wise. But if you look at like some of the guys, like Harold Landry's a good example of it, guys that maybe like weren't like hitting every measurable, but are just like great athletes that can do a ton of different
Will
things.
McDonald,
like, that's what he is.
Will McDonald from the Jets.
Yeah.
Will McDonald, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Will McDonald the 4th.
Yeah.
He doesn't
from
have
Iowa State.
Yeah, he doesn't have all the measurables, and last year he was pretty good.
He's dynamite. Yeah. So like I think like to me like Walker's the one that I would look at as I like the idea of Tyler Warren too. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the draft. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you watch him run, it'll remind you of Gronk, right? Like if you watch him, just go watch how like it's just his style.
And he was their whole offense. That's
Yeah.
the funny thing is that he was Penn State's like literally their entire passing offense in some games.
And they snapped him the ball too.
Yeah,
so
I
he
know.
was part
So
of the running game.
I'm with you. I'm not. We have to break, but I'm not. I'm fascinated too why Tyler Warren is not a concrete. He's huge, and he was so. And he has the college numbers. He was at a huge program that did well.
I think there's something to be said too for the whole thing being built around you and knowing what that feels like.
I agree.
And knowing what like the defense every week, everything they do is geared to stop me. Like that was Tyler Warren was that guy.
Well, I believe
and Ashton Jeanty was too.
Was he?
Obviously.
I know Tyler Warren was the only one with a reception, the only non-running back with a reception in Penn State's last game, and I'm not positive he wasn't the only one targeted in that game. Like I'm not sure a wide receiver got a target against Notre Dame. So I know Tyler Warren is the. I'm 99% sure Tyler Warren was the only non-running back with a reception. I'm 50-50 on if he was the only one targeted.
In the Ohio State game, there's this big goal line stand that Ohio, for people who didn't watch, at the end of the fourth quarter is a huge goal line stand Ohio State, created to end the game. But how Penn State got there, they were at midfield, and Tyler Warren was the Wildcat quarterback, and he ran around the left edge and broke like a 48-yard run to get them down to the 2. And this is like, again, in their biggest game of the year, in a high-leverage situation, they're snapping the ball to him. Like that's the sort of player he is, an athlete he is. And I think you got like a bunch of good options, but that's the whole thing, Fred, is like, I don't think they're in any position to make a pick for 2025. Like this has got to be a pick where you're looking at it and you're saying we are not going to pass on something we think could be great for something that's just going to be very good and fill a need right now.
Okay. I'm looking at it. He very well might have been the only. He had 6 receptions. The next most was 2, and one of them was a running back. I can vet this because everyone's very interested. And the other guy was a tight end. Okay, yeah. So basically, I'm right.
But he's awesome. Doesn't it like watching him run though, like the recklessness of it, like and how he looks bigger than everybody else? It looks like Gronk.
Yeah, I know. I'm curious why he's not more sought after.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.